Good evening and welcome. Today is April 8th. You're presently at the Hendrick Hudson Board meeting. Can you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to deviate slightly from our agenda. We are going to actually ask, we'd like to hear from the girls first.
Yes, we invited.
Thank you. Thank you for having the girls and the coaches here tonight. Thank you for the board for inviting the girls tonight to honor them for really what was just a wonderful year and a great ride that they were able to go on. And I told them before they went on their national trip that all their hard work started way back in July. So this was like a 9-month journey for them this whole year. And I want to thank the board for all of your support in providing the programs and for opportunities like this that these girls were able to go on. The girls, they were such a pleasure to watch this year. I saw multiple competitions. It was a successful year. Every Saturday, finding out first place and here in first place, wherever it may be, they really became one of the top-notch cheerleading programs this year that put themselves on the map. And I was also a cheerleading dad this year for another school, and I'd have other teams come and saying, "The Hen girls are so good. The Hen girls are so good." It's a real tribute to all of the hard work that all of you put in and the coaches put in. And seeing you go down to Myrtle Beach and experience and hearing all the wonderful things. My only disappointment was that my flight got canceled due to the snow that Friday, and being there to celebrate that with you. But like I said to you before you left, the memories that you had are going to last a lifetime. And you've had a great year, and we're just honored that you can be honored here tonight. And you guys represented the community so well. So at this time, I'd like to call up our varsity coach, Coach Nicole Salvaggi, Landry, to come up and say a few words as well.
Everyone, thank you for having us here tonight. As an alumni from Hen Hud, it means the world to me to stand here representing my team, my program, and the school that I have a really, really strong heart for. Like Mr. Baker said, our journey started way back in July, and I could probably never put into words what I felt or what Patty and I felt leaving Nationals this year. In March. They have gone above and beyond, these student athletes, to put their team first, to put themselves and their school first, and to represent Hendrick Hudson and the community in the utmost best way. I stood by one of my coaches this past season to coach with, which was an amazing experience, and she's only brought such positive energy to the program as well. And I just can't thank everyone enough for the utmost support, and these are an amazing group of kids, and I love them all dearly. So thank you very much.
And one of our captains, Gabby Esposito, would like to come up as well. And I'm sure she'd like to show off the nice hardware that we got there, right?
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Gabby Esposito. Usually I have two other girls with me by my side, our two other captains, Antonia Dolan and Lauren Kearney. I just wanted to say a huge thank you for acknowledging our entire trip and journey to Myrtle Beach. Third place runner-up was a huge accomplishment for us all, and we seriously couldn't have done it without you guys, our superintendent, Mr. Baker, our principals, and most importantly our coaches and parents. Without their support, none of this really would have happened. So again, a huge thank you. As a senior, Myrtle Beach was such an amazing experience. I bonded with these girls like no other. Like, it was such an amazing experience. And especially, I think it really opened up the 8th graders' eyes, and as well as our freshmen, because as a freshman in 8th grade, you never really get to experience that. And we hadn't been to nationals in a very, very long time. So, it was just an amazing experience. And also, I wanted to say another thank you to our coaches. I know that, we always say we appreciate you guys, so.
But
thank you so much for inviting us here. We all really appreciate it. I wish our our two other captains were here as well to say thank you, but I'm here for them. So. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, girls.
This is the hardware that they got. Like Gabby said, the third
Wow.
place runner-up, the third runner-up is a tremendous accomplishment to go down there, and with lots of teams from all over the country, and that was just a feather in the cap, and just a great ending to a great year for them.
Can we get a sample?
Can
This
you
one-
do
No,
cheers?
Oh,
That might feel like
On TV right now, too.
I would just like to
For that
say
whole
thank you
audience
so
out
much.
there.
You guys, you did us proud, and it's so often that you hear the bad stuff, and then you guys come along and you do this, and the nationals. That's huge. That's huge, and it's all your hard work. I mean, and it didn't even just start back in July. For some of you, it started 4 years ago, or this is a long time. This
Started
is
at
the
Travis.
culmination of like a lot of hard work. So thank you to the older ones for putting in 4 years of work, and thank you for and being those role models to the younger ones. And the younger ones, thank you for probably exerting all that extra effort to keep up with the big guys. I'm sorry, the older girls. Big guys is probably not what you want to hear if you're a cheerleader. But thank you very much. We appreciate all your effort and for representing so well. Thank you.
And I'll just add, even though
And the coaches.
even though I was not on my high school cheer team, I had an opportunity to travel with our sports teams and band and all sorts of things. And it's trips like this and moments like you guys had in Myrtle Beach that you will remember forever. So cherish it. Remember all the good times and the triumphs and the hurdles you guys have overcome, because what you've done and accomplished through cheerleading is no different than in the classroom and some of the challenges you'll face in life. So remember these experiences and take them with you. And thank you very, very much for honoring and representing our district with such class and grace. It was awesome. Very good.
On a small sign of our esteem, we'll let you stick around and watch a board meeting.
Actually, our esteem was
They
that
are
we
very
got you guys
exciting.
out early. We
Yes,
did you
exactly.
first, and then you can go.
You have homework to do, we're sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Liv, what was that second?
She's not leaving that. That's going with her.
Funny guy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
You represented well. All right, that brings, I'm feeling lonely now. Well, that brings us back to our agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So,
Those in favor?
oh, did we pull the?
Are there any items anybody would like pulled from the agenda?
Yeah, the one, the fiscal website.
Okay, that would be the website, that would be fiscal 3.2, and it's the website hosting bid?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other items that anybody would like to pull? No? Can I get a motion to approve the items not pulled within the agenda? Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, you had the question regarding the website hosting.
Sure.
Well, I didn't.
Could you explain a little bit about the rubric and the testing and the need to upgrade?
Sure. So I'm sure you know very well that one of the items in our strategic plan is communication and our website presence. So as part of that, and also just as part of our overall communication strategy, we're always looking to improve the website. And we make incremental changes as we go. But every few years, we kind of like to do a deeper dive and see what we can do to upgrade it. So back in January, at the technology leadership team, we started talking about this, and a few folks volunteered to be on a group that would look at our website and make recommendations for redesigning it. So that was four people, and they started doing that. And in the process of me meeting with them, they had a lot of questions, of ideas they had. They met with the PTA, and they talked to a lot of different people about, and Annie was involved in this, about what they would like to see on an improved website. And we quickly realized that the current software that we have really couldn't do a lot of what we wanted to do. And just to give you a little background, the company that we use now is called School World, which was bought by Edline a few years ago, and then Edline was bought by Blackboard. So Blackboard is on a shopping spree right now of website companies, and they own about 4 or 5 of them. And what they do typically is they buy a company and they let it die slowly. They tell you that we're not supporting it anymore. We'll give you basic support, but we're not enhancing it. So that's where that software is now. It's about 9 years old, so it's a long time for software. So out of that evaluation group, we decided to go out to bid for a new product, a new software product. So we did a traditional bid. I wrote some specifications. We did a bid in the normal way we do a bid. We received 4 responses, and here's the results of the bid.
And Matthew, just let me, to be clear, Sharp School should be 2,200. We're either missing
It's too many zeros or your comma's in the wrong place.
in the
Too many
narrative.
zeros. Whoops.
The
Yes.
narrative would suggest 2,200. I
Yes.
just want right.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Um,
expensive.
So we received 4 responses to the bid, and the way the prices broke out, they gave us a price to migrate our existing site, a price for training, and those 2 columns make up the first year total cost, and then there's an annual cost after that. So the school wires we eliminated because of the price, and in the process of while this bid was out, Blackboard bought school wires too. So it's a good thing we didn't have them come in anyway. So these are the prices, and then we had a committee that met on 2 half days, and vendors did presentations. Barbara was part of this, and the committee didn't really consider the price. We used a 30-item rubric and scored each of the products based on that rubric, and it came out. Fortunately, the cheapest, least expensive product was also rated the highest, so we didn't have to make any difficult decisions, although we, in the bid, price wasn't the only factor. We wanted to consider functionality, of course, but the least expensive one also is the one that the group felt most strongly about that they'd like to use. So once the board approves this bid, accepts this bid, we'll begin the design process, and we're hoping to do a kind of a soft cutover on July 1st to the new site, and then have the summer to kind of fine-tune it, and then be ready to go with everything by September.
What more functionality will we get?
So I was just going to say, Joe, that's some of the upgrades.
Yeah,
So it was
there's a lot of nice
amazing when you
things.
sat there and you looked at these.
A big one is ease of use. Is right now you have to log into a separate website to edit your site, so teachers have to have one browser to view and one to edit, and they kind of go back and forth, and it is confusing. The new tools use a different kind of technology where you're actually on the web page in your browser. You log in and you're editing in real time on the page, so you can drag things around, you can reorganize. So it's a lot more user friendly.
So that's for the teacher users. So there's different groups of users, but for teachers, in other words, it's much easier for them to update, so they'll be able to keep their pages much more regularly.
Well, the first thing is true. I'm not committing to the second, but yes, it is easier to use. There are more features as well.
And pictures, right? Pictures could be.
Yeah,
uploaded
a lot
right
of, like I
easier.
said, the software we have now is
Yeah.
old, so there's a lot of little things that have kind of been driving people crazy. One of them, the typical one, is there's a limit on the size of the picture. So people take pictures with their digital cameras, and the files are huge, and they have to go into an editor and resize them and crop them. In this new product, you upload a picture, there's no file size limit, and you can resize it right there on the fly, and it'll put it into the web page right then and there.
And videos too, correct?
Same with videos, you can put videos in, you can
So
embed
if-
videos or link
If you're doing
videos.
something with your class, you can just upload it right away to the website, and it's visible for everybody, so it's, people were really happy with that component.
A lot of things are the same as far as, you're going to have, we're still working on the design, but, the district site, the school sites, and the teacher sites, that kind of hierarchy is the same. But we're also going to, in the process, do a little cleanup and reorganization of the way the site's laid out.
Do these cost, what are the comparison to the current costs that we're paying?
The current one is about $9,500 annually, so this is a little bit of a savings.
Okay. And how long is it, a 5-year,
It's year to year,
year?
so it's not a contract. It's just an annual license fee. I mean, it's not the kind of thing you want to be changing too often because it's a big process.
Okay. Are there places that people can go to look at examples?
They have, yes, there are many samples. I can send that to you if you want to look at, actually not sampled, real sites, real school sites.
That would go with this product?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be good.
Yep.
And could we upgrade on features? Like after the first year, we find there's another feature we want to add, we could do that as well,
Yes.
correct?
And they also include a mobile app. So we do have an app now, but it's a separate product which has to sync. And one of the things that I like about this is it's an integrated product. So we'll be changing the mobile app as well.
So you can get it produces a mobile website?
Well, they have something, one of the new technologies is something called responsive design. And basically, you know how on your phone when you pinch and zoom a page, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it's so tiny you can't read it. Their technology is optimized so that if you're looking at it on an iPad or a phone or a computer, it will resize in a much more dynamic way and be much more legible, and it'll look more like the regular website no matter what device you're on.
Oh, good.
You said this is a year-to-year and not a contract. Are they going to be able to increase the annual maintenance cost then in a year? They can say now it's going to be $12,000?
Yeah, I think theoretically yes, but
Is there any sort
typically
of cap?
no, but typically they don't do that. These kinds of companies know they can't get away with that. I mean, they increase it a little bit every year, but they really can't do that. I mean, they can, they don't.
But then they would lose a lot of business,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
assume, because we saw when we were sampling them, various school districts throughout the whole country that are using this particular, web-based company. So.
I mean, the school world that we have now, it's gone up a little bit every year, but not much. I'd say probably over the 8 years, maybe $1,000.
Just one quick question. Blackboard sounds like it's becoming the market leader, and I see a lot of colleges use it too. Is there would there have been any advantage to using something that kids are still familiar, kids and parents are still familiar with?
Yeah, and before we started this, people kept saying, well, what do you like? What do you like? And I said, well, I have no preference, but that's not entirely true. My preference was Blackboard only because the migration would have been a lot easier because they own School World. So they're kind of inside. But if you look at the scores, the Blackboard score was so low. People really didn't like the Blackboard product. And I think it's because Blackboard they buy companies and they kind of take them over, and they're not really developing and innovating. This other company, Sharp School, has really developed an innovative product.
Yeah.
It's just so far ahead of Blackboard.
Thank you.
Comfortable? Can I get a motion to approve the,
So moved.
there you go, the website hosting?
Yes.
Website hosting bid.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
And thank the committee for the work.
I will.
Unfortunately, it was on snow days, so the first meeting we had, we planned a full day, and then it was early dismissal, so we had to put on an extra half day. But I must say, everybody was very committed and worked very diligently, so it's a very good committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is items removed from the consent. It would be acceptance of donations, and we have two. One is the donation from the Hendrick Hudson Ice Hockey Club, and to increase the budget, $2,000. And the second is to approve a donation of $322.82 from Modell's, and also increase the budget. Modell's, I would assume, is the percentage of when you spend a certain amount, they do those promos. And the Ice Hockey Club is what they usually, it's part of their usual agreement. Can I get a motion to approve these donations?
So,
Second? All those in favor? One abstention, please. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us, audience comments.
I have a comment.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Janine Eichenholz, Chair of the Advocacy Committee. As all of you know, testing is coming up, and it's a huge, huge issue right now. We've been discussing it on our Facebook page. We've had some comments from parents and some questions. I emailed Mr. Hochreiter and have a couple of things that he approved that we did post last night. But we are getting more comments, and some came in today, as to why our district has not issued a policy statement or any kind of communication on the issue. A lot of parents don't understand how hands might be tied by state ed and what can be said and what kind of information can be given to parents. But the other side of that is we need to tell them what we can say, and then kind of so people aren't inferring things and hearing from other districts. Ossining Superintendent issued a statement, and Yorktown Superintendent, I just saw a copy tonight, issued a 2-page letter, not really supporting testing, but advising parents that, we cannot advise you to refuse. This is what state ed is telling us. This is where our money comes from, and this is what we have to do. So on behalf of the Advocacy Committee, I'd like to encourage the board and or the district to issue a statement to the parents, be proactive in the communication so that the questions aren't coming up, try to get the answers out there before the questions can appear, but to let parents know why the testing exists, why we use the testing, and then what parents can do and what the district can and cannot do, what the teachers cannot say, and things like that. So that's
Thank
my
you.
request. Thanks.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
Okay, as Janine said, we have state testing, which we are on the eve of, not literally but figuratively. And not only state testing 3 through 8, but we are now around the 10-week mark of instruction left in our school year. And if you think about 10 weeks, that is a very quick time. Spring sports have started, and that's usually the beginning of the end of the school year because the spring sports season is one of the shortest. 2 quick updates regarding Hen Hud Live. They had their annual event in mid-March, and wanted to let the board know that the money that was raised last year in 2014 was allocated to the middle school. And the interest in the middle school was to support new risers for our music programs, to supplement the purchase of new curtains, and also to examine new lights. The lighting system in the auditorium is a little archaic, and their donation last year will be able to support what will look like a pretty significant renovation of our middle school auditorium. The reason the funds were earmarked toward the middle school is because all of our kids eventually end up there, and that is a common space that all students, whether they're musicians or artists, will be a part of and benefit from. The money that was raised, just shy of $30,000 this March in 2015, we haven't had our planning meeting yet, but I know the organizers have some interest around music programs and athletic programs for all of our kids. And that is in addition to a donation that they make to all 6 of the PTAs. So they make a donation to all 6 PTAs. Those PTAs spend their funds how they see fit, and then they leave a chunk of money for a project of district interest for the majority of the kids. So I just wanted to be clear that what we're doing at the auditorium is last year's funds, which is a work in progress, getting bids and all of those sort of things. and that the funds raised about 4 weeks ago, have not been allocated yet, but once they are, we'll let you know. And I'll leave it at that.
That brings us to committee reports. I don't believe with the break that we've really had any.
We had code of conduct today.
Oh.
We have, each year, we look at the code of conduct to see what needs to be updated. That's written in the guidelines for codes of conduct. And what we're looking at for this year is to tighten up some language around online problems. And also looking at, should we have a sign-off? Last year we were advised no, but we're starting to think maybe we should have a sign-off for parents to sign. That parents and children have read the code of conduct. It's a housekeeping nightmare.
Are you looking at all the way up to K to 12, or are you looking at just like the?
It would be all the way up. What actually, we're not making any recommendation yet. I just asked the attorney to advise us. We had that in the past. We used to have that.
Yes, in the past it was done, all elementary children, the parents read over the code of conduct and signed a form and submitted that form to the classroom teachers. High school children, I was led to believe, discussed the code of conduct, read it over in either English or social studies class, and then signed off that they understood and had read it. So I believe we're discussing now with the legal department. Right.
Last year we revised the code of conduct hugely because it had been added to so many times that it was just sort of a mishmash. So now it's streamlined and clear.
It really is very well organized the way.
And we also wrote a summary because we knew that no one was reading the whole thing. Very few people. But the full code of conduct is available in most of the places. That's what we wrote.
That summary was an especially good touch. It was useful. It's like a plain language.
Exactly.
It's the highlights.
Thank you.
But I think also we have to discuss with perhaps our policy committee, to update some policies affiliated with the code of
We want to look
conduct.
at specifically at the policy of home instruction.
Right, home instruction.
Just look at the consistent, just make sure
That
that
it's
it's consistent.
consistent. And that we are, we know what we're doing anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to our presentation discussion, which would be the Smart Bond proposal.
So we'll bring Matthew back up. As you know, this past November, as many scurried to the polls for local and statewide elections, another referendum on the ballot was to approve the Smart Schools Bond Act, which is a set of money, a pile of money set aside for school districts, and I'll let Matthew get into how that happened, but essentially school districts are provided with funds to increase technology, to increase security, to do some capital expenditure or infrastructure updates. And some of the language or the language in the proposal includes multiple stakeholder input, but ultimately a direction and if not approval from the board so we can move forward with the plan. So input has been provided. Matthew has been on tour talking about the nuts and bolts of the bond and getting input from various stakeholders, including PTA Council to all 5 buildings. And we're here to let you know where we're at and what our proposed next steps are.
Thank you. Okay, so I will take you through this, and apologies to those of you that have seen this already. I know there's a couple of you that are going to have to sit through it again. So as Mr. Huckrider said, this was on the ballot back in November, and this was the governor's initiative that is allocated $2 billion for New York State schools. It passed, and the allocation for Hendrick Hudson is $569,000. This is not a grant. It's not competitive. It's basically taxpayer money that has been allocated for us that is ours to spend as long as we comply with the requirements of the bond. This is one thing that's interesting about this is it's not really a state education department entity. It's a Governor Cuomo project. He created a Smart Schools Commission that has developed this program and is managing it. and that's made up by Jeffrey Canada, Constance Evelyn, who's the superintendent in Auburn, in the Southern Tier, and Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google. So those are the three people that are kind of spearheading this project. There's very specific criteria about what the money can be spent on, and you'll see that it's really designed to target different demographics throughout the state. Because this is a political initiative, it's not really an educational one. So the first one is broadband or wireless connectivity to basically put wireless into schools. Second one is facilities, and with a specific focus, which would be adding or renovating pre-K spaces or removing classroom trailers. The third is learning technologies. That's the kind of thing that we just spent a lot of money on in our own bond: classroom computers, servers, whiteboards, things like that. And the fourth is high-tech security, and high-tech security is comprised of three components: video systems, emergency notification systems, and physical access. And I'll get into all of that in a little bit more detail. So the process, as Mr. Hochreiter said, is we're going to submit a proposal once the board decides on what direction to go to the Smart Schools Review Board. Once they approve it, the funds will be allocated. And we are at this point right now where we're the bond parameters require us to get stakeholder input. So parents, teachers, students, community, and other stakeholders have given input. One thing to be aware of is there's no New York State aid on these funds, and we're certainly planning to get everything that we procure below state contract. So the Smart Schools Review Board is the body that is going to review our application and decide if it will be accepted or will require revision. That is the SUNY Chancellor, Director of Budget, and the new Commissioner of Education. That kind of leads to the timing question, which is we don't really know when this review board will be in place, because my sense is we're going to be waiting for the Commissioner of Education to be appointed.
Who's paying for that?
What?
Who's paying for the review board? Is that another unfunded mandate, or is it part of the bond?
That's part of the.
So
Well,
they're
those
gonna
are
set up
all
a bureaucracy.
state employees, so that's just added to their job description.
No, are they going to set up a bureaucracy just to handle this bond?
Yeah.
So like the auditors that we're now still paying 4 or 5 years or 10 years after Roslyn?
It's part. I don't know if it's funded out of the bond itself or if it's just part of the state bureaucracy, or I don't know that.
Or if there was a set aside, you mean,
Yeah.
from the overall
It could be.
allocation that went to administering the bond?
Yeah,
I don't
overhead
know.
costs. Yeah, I don't know. So our proposal. So remember, there's 4 components, and just to give you a sense, broadband and wireless, we have done that. Our entire district has wireless now and has internet access. Facilities, we don't have pre-K spaces right now. If we were to add pre-K spaces, obviously there'd be significant budgetary implications for that, and we don't have classroom trailers. Now, learning technologies is one thing that is more of a possibility for us. However, we did just spend $1.7 million on learning technologies. So I would be hard-pressed to come to you and say we need more. Certainly, if those were the only 3 choices, I would say yes, we'll use it. But I think the best choice for us is to focus on the high-tech security, and I'll explain what that is. So there's those 3 areas: video systems, emergency notification, and physical access. And in presenting this proposal to the various groups, everyone felt like that is the place that we should focus. Primarily because number 1 and 2 don't really apply to us. Number 3, we did just invest heavily in learning technologies, and we're in a good place right now. And 4, high-tech security does address a long-standing need in the district in a variety of ways, and I'll explain that in a minute. So we're proposing that we partner with Cisco. Cisco is the leading provider of this kind of hardware. The $1.7 million district's bond that we just completed was all Cisco hardware. So the idea behind that is to expand on that existing system with a fully integrated system, rather than go out to another vendor and have another product, to add to what we've just invested in an integrated way. And then the company, local company, Computer Systems Integrators, that did the installation work for our own bond, we'd like to have them come back and do this work as well. So I'm going to go into the details of those three areas now: the video, high-tech security, and physical access. So video. So we do have video cameras in the district now. So the first thing we would do is integrate our existing cameras into this new system. We would add new HD cameras in strategic locations. So Anthony Merlini and I and the Cisco representative and the installer, once we know that this is the way we're going to go, would walk through the entire district and decide where there's gaps in coverage and where we need to add new cameras. One thing that's a big plus about this system is the new cameras are HD, high def, which means you get much better resolution. One of the problems we've had since I've been here with these cameras is sometimes we'll get footage of somebody doing something they shouldn't be doing, but it's not sharp enough to see their face, especially at night. So the newer cameras are much better technology, and you can get better resolution.
These have night vision?
Yes. The other problem that we have right now is limited storage. We can only store 7 days of video, and it's not high resolution. With this new system, we're able to store 30 days. There have been times when vandalism or an incident isn't discovered until 10 days, 12 days later, and it's nice to be able to go back and look at that video. And then the video system will be fully integrated with the emergency notification and the physical access system. So these three components are part of one unified system. So emergency notification is really a fancy way of saying phones. It's more than phones, but that's the basics of what it is. So obviously we have phones in the district now. That system is about 7 or 8 years old. So we would be replacing all the existing phones with new Cisco phones that are integrated with this new system. Then this is the big kind of value add for this whole project that will really, I think, have a nice positive impact in terms of convenience and security. We'll be adding a phone to every classroom in the district that has an outside line. So right now, teachers need to make a call. They have to go to the faculty room. There's one line in the faculty room. This enables teachers to use a phone to make outgoing calls right from their classrooms. And also, the big obvious plus is they can call 911 right from their classroom. Keep in mind that those phones do not receive incoming calls, and it's a very sophisticated system, so it can be, you can say, okay, only the principal can call, international calls. Right now, we have a bundle which is local, regional, and long distance, and it's like 500,000 minutes. So we never pay for long distance anyway, but those restrictions can be put in place if we wanted to. So
are these phone lines digital? Or?
These are all IP phones. So IP phones mean they run on our network. So this entire system runs on the network that we just invested in, which means you don't have to do any additional wiring. Every classroom already has network wiring, and the way these phones work is they sit next to the computer. The wire that's connected to the computer now, you plug into the phone, and then you take another wire and you plug it from the phone into the computer. So it sits between the wall jack and the computer, kind of like a splitter, and it's connected and it gets its power off the network.
But if the network's down, none of the phones work except for...
Well, one of the things we did when we put in this new network is we put everything on battery backup. So that would keep phones alive. And then there's also a rollover system, there's a backup system of traditional copper lines. The phones also have a PA built in, so our principal can do paging into all the classrooms right to the phone. We would also add PA in public spaces. So again, right now we have, in some schools, I think in this building we have the black outside phones, we have white intercom phones, and then we have another beige phone for going between offices. So there's like these multiple systems. This would eliminate all of those and make one system that functions as a PA between classes, outside lines, inside lines, and paging.
Matthew, would this system also be able to kind of stop some of the interruptions in the classroom when, people have announcements to make over the loudspeaker, and whether it's your class involved or not, you're still receiving.
They can be programmed, so you can set up groups. So the person that's doing the paging can say, okay, I want only the second floor or only this group to get announcements.
So hopefully this might be a little less disruptive to the classroom teachers.
Yes. Okay. And again, like I'm trying to, one of the big pluses, the phones in every classroom is a big plus, but one of the big pluses is it's an integrated system with all three components are integrated together. The third component is physical access, also known as security on doors. So right now we have on many of our doors, not all of them, entry systems that require a magnetic swipe to get in. So those would all be integrated. Those do not need to be replaced. I know the district has invested money in those. That hardware can be used in this system. All you do is change the controller to connect it to the new system. And then we'd be adding additional ones. The goal would be to get every door on the system. We don't know for sure if we can do that because we haven't done a walkthrough yet. But the goal would be to get every door onto this system so every door can be managed through this system. And then there's also emergency notification. So the way this works is you decide in each building who manages the doors. So similar to what we have now, except right now you're adding another piece of equipment, a little video display with a buzzer to a secretary's desk. With this system, you can just say, okay, these 5 phones, they can see who's at the door, and they can buzz someone in or out. And if they need to, they can lock the doors or call 911. So if somebody gets up and leaves their desk, the other person can pick it up very easily. It's very seamless to transfer responsibility. And then on the phone itself is a little video display where you can see, again, the camera for the doors. So just to give you a graphic of what we're looking at. So Cisco is the hardware provider, as I said, the leading provider of this kind of system in the world. This is what we've done so far. The blue areas are what we've done through our own bond. So Wi-Fi throughout the district. LAN is local area network. That's the network infrastructure within each building that we've upgraded. Wiring, switches, and WAN is the wide area network. That's the when we switched to Best Web, we went from LightPath to Best Web in January. We upgraded that connection. So those 3 components are already done, and this proposal is to integrate emergency notification, physical access, and video into that Cisco system. So this is where we are now. We have met with the PTA Council, Technology Leadership Team, Facilities Committee, Safety Committee, Administrative Cabinet, and there were 2 meetings offered, just general for anybody that wants to come for district staff, to basically go through this same presentation. 2 pieces of input came to me. The first one came from the Administrative Cabinet, and that was for can we add walkie-talkies to this system? We have walkie-talkies now, but we have 5 separate systems in the district, so each school has their own system. So one of the ideas was, well, can we get one big mega system? And in the discussion with, was this facilities or safety, Carson? Remember? Facilities. One of the ideas or one of the concerns was, well, we don't want to increase the budget, the annual budget, by implementing any of this bond money. So a walkie-talkie system, those as a service. So that would have an annual budgetary impact if we did that. So we decided that would not be a good use of this money because it would be adding to the budget to do that. In addition, every building has a very adequate walkie-talkie system. There's no deficiency there. The thought was it would be nice to have one system for the whole district. But because of the space between the schools, you have to pay a monthly fee to get the connection between the schools. So that idea was sort of tabled. The other idea that came up from Technology Leadership Team was, well, can we get more Chromebooks? And what I said was, I don't know. I don't know how much. I got a very rough estimate from the vendors, but they didn't do a walkthrough. So my suggestion was that if we were able to do all of this, if this is the way the board wants to go, and there's funding left over, that we would use it for extra Chromebooks.
Good for the kids.
So, this is today. This is the proposal for you. We're asking you to approve a resolution at the next meeting, if this is the way you want to go, or if you want to change the direction. And then once that's done, I'll begin to put the proposal together. We don't have a firm timeline from the state yet of when they're going to be accepting applications, but there's going to be a mad rush to get this money. So I'd like to have our proposal ready to go as soon as they open the window to submit it, so that we can have as much freedom as possible. Because if it's like anything else up in Albany, it's going to take a while to get it approved.
So what is the time frame you're looking at then? Like a year from now to get these things implemented?
I would be surprised if we saw anything before 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
These aren't things that, some of these you would want to be able to do during the summer.
Yeah.
But
So this summer is not going to happen. Maybe over December, February break next year.
hooking that up to the computers, and what is that going to do? That doesn't entail much, does it? Like just with the
It's just
phone
plugging
lines?
into the network.
Literally,
all of
so
this.
that's
Yeah.
It'll be the video,
Okay.
installing.
There's not much wiring that needs to be done because
No, but
most
I'm
of this
saying just
stuff
the classroom access,
Yeah,
that's
no.
huge.
is connected to things that are already wired.
Good.
So a lot of it can be done during the year. So if we got our allocation in November, we could probably do a lot of it after hours. And
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Things that aren't quite as invasive.
Right.
The phones. If it's something that's that as simple as like a wiring, or
Right.
it's not really like you're taking part of the classroom.
And most of the phones is really the easy part, because basically you're going to go to someone's desk, take their phone, unplug it, plug a new one in, and walk away and say, "Here's a card
But
with your
that's-
directions."
But given the broader,
But-
what it can what it can accomplish,
Right.
I think that'll make everybody far more comfortable.
The other piece I forgot to mention was, it's probably obvious, but one of the concerns from the community for years has been lack of cell coverage at Furnace Woods in the middle school. So that's something we've looked at. That's extremely expensive because you have to put in your own repeaters for each carrier. So that's something we've decided not to do, but this would alleviate a lot of that concern, because every classroom would have an outside line to be able to dial 911.
It's been really interesting at TLT how enthusiastic the teachers are who have the Chromebook cards are. That market is really exploding. The Chromebook, and the prices are coming down, and the capabilities are getting higher. What's kind of our policy? Do we have a set of specs? Because I've noticed a lot of very inexpensive touchscreen Chromebooks coming
Right.
out now, and that seems like it would be something that would be good for some items and some things. So are we going to go forward with the same consistent spec, or are we going to be able to upgrade, bring in different things?
I want to stay with the same one as long as we can until they discontinue it, just because it's easier to have the same one. And the one that we settled on is kind of a low mid-range. They're $333, so you can get them for $180, but they're really cheap. And then you can get them for $800 or $900, which is overkill. So I think the ones we get they're sort of ruggedized. They kind of have a rubber cover on them, and they seem to be holding up well.
But the kids love them. I've got to tell you, I was so impressed just, seeing how integrated everything is, through them using these Chromebooks. The whole curriculum. There's additional activities they can do, and they're having fun, and they're learning, absolutely, and enthusiastic. As a matter of fact, one of the teachers in BV, Newport, invited you and I to go in April and see how her little first graders are working with them in the classroom. So,
A little off topic, but since you brought it up.
Here you go. Here, you brought it up. You have to listen to it.
I'll be honest, I did not expect first graders to take to them like that. None of us did. We all thought 4th, 5th grade and up.
No way. Really? No
They-
way.
Because what we've heard a lot from teachers is their hands are too little, they can't type, they can't use the touchpads.
Are you kidding me? Have you ever sat in a restaurant
I'm
and the kid
just
watching a
telling you.
little guy with an iPad? 3 years old. He's like,
iPad is different because it's touchscreen. This is a keyboard and a touchpad. So it does require some dexterity, but they're
inspired.
They're really able to handle it. It's amazing seeing first graders.
even just carrying them carefully.
Well, that's what, like, they talk about, they have to carry up like this.
Right.
But are the kids making the distinction between the fact that they have Chromebooks and iPads or other types of computer devices?
No, for them, it's really part of the learning environment. It's just a natural thing. And they're going to have a hard time, the coaches, in September, when their carts get shared. They're going to have a hard time transitioning.
It's true.
So,
We're just going to get real
Well, then we
proprietary.
may just have to, consider if there's, maybe we buy enough to make.
yes, I mean, that would be my recommendation, is to go with this proposal, and then whatever's left, put it into Chromebooks.
We have how many now? 500?
About 500. So this is on your agenda now for an action at the next meeting.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
That brings us to our budget review and the tax implications. Joe,
Yeah, we have a PowerPoint slide to review revenues, expenses, different codes and categories, and I'll have Enrique walk us through this and have a discussion on exactly what we're seeking board approval for, so we can meet timelines set forth by the State Education Department.
Thank you. For the 2015-2016 budget, we're proposing a budget of $74.4 million.
Let me see, right and left. Right and left, we'll move to the next slide.
$74.4 million. This represents a budget increase compared to this year of 1.4%. A tax levy that we already set with the state is $40,959,972. That's $12 below our tax cap. I always like to leave myself a little bit of wiggle room in case of Excel makes some little $1 approximations. The tax levy represents a 0.01% increase, an increase of $11,952 compared to last year. This represents a tax rate increase based on our tax rolls as of November of last year of 0.02% for Cortland and 0.1% for Peekskill. For Cortland, it represents an increase of $3 per year, and Peekskill represents an increase of $1 per year. Our non-tax revenue, meaning everything else that we collect besides the tax levy, represents $33.4 million, which is an increase of 3.18%. Our tax cap is $40,960,000 with $17. So as you can see, our tax levy is just $20 below that. So here we are. An average house in each of the two components of our school district, the city of Peekskill, an average house with an assessed value of $7,700 will get a star of $3,480, so getting a net tax assessed value of $4,220. So their tax bill for next year will be $1,981 compared to $1,978. Here I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It's not $1, it's $3. For the town of Portland, same assessed value, $7,700. the start of 1810 with a net value of 5,890. The tax rate for this year will be 991 with 26 cents. The tax rate for last year was 990. So there's going to be an increase of $3 from 5,836 in the tax bill to 5,839. Again, by law, we need to show three categories: instruction, that represent 80.7% of our total budget; capital represent 13.2%, and the administrative budget 6.1%. In the ballot, we'll also have a bus proposition. What we're asking the community is to replace 6 vehicles, 1 72-passenger bus, 3 single-wheel 20-passenger bus, 2 Suburbans, and in addition, we need some bus garage equipment. We need to change our fuel system at a cost not to exceed $480,000. So thank you.
Thank you very much. The supporting information, what constituted the instruction, the capital, and the administrative numbers were provided at various earlier budget meetings. It was broken out and presented. So that's where those images, and I think it's admirable that over 80% of our budget is going towards instruction, which is what we do. So I think that's absolutely the right thing. Does anybody have any questions?
Maybe if we could just clarify for the public that this is just the expense portion. So we are, the board, this is the revenue portion. We have not figured out where the money is going to be allocated. Finalized.
So the number by state law that you're approving tonight is the 74,407, and the slide showed the various calculations of what lead us to that. So on the ballot, voters will weigh in on a budget of 74,407 with a tax levy increase of 0.01. Now, we set that now so we could meet state education timelines, property tax card, a lot of other requirements that are the responsibility of the school district. What we will continue to do is to examine what programs or positions constitute that 74 million and change. For example, the board has made very, very clear, not just through Finance Committee, but public discussions, that we want to look at cost areas like overtime, substitute teachers. We want to look for other organizational efficiencies so our staff and our world-class programs aren't in jeopardy. We came to you a month ago at that time without a complete state budget, with just a forecast of positions that we would retain as 11 of our teachers are retiring. We're going to continue to scrutinize those positions, the programs that those individuals provide our kids, to determine if everyone leaving needs to be replaced. We have some challenges. We have declining enrollment. We have some program changes, whether it be with special education or other curriculum areas. So we need to continually look at people, programs, and positions as they leave the district through retirement or resignation.
The resource allocation.
And the resource allocation to determine, can we do things cheaper? Can we absorb some of these positions and maintain our program? So what is set tonight, and what we hope we have your approval for, is to move forward with that expense number. What we will continue to deliberate are the positions and the programs within that expense number. Our goal is to have that wrapped up Within 4 weeks, we have in early May a budget hearing, which essentially we will walk the public through this, and we will walk them through programs and services within the budget, because certainly we want people to have all of the information in front of them well before they vote.
And Joe, in that regard, I just have a question and comment on behalf of the board and the public as well. I would just like to get more information to the board earlier on some of the details. To the public knows, we have provided PowerPoints. We've been working on this budget since the beginning of the year on each area: administrative, transportation, K-12 program. But there is a detailed line item budget, and this is part of our paperless culture, I think. We have gotten a little bit, we don't give as many papers out. We used to get a board binder delivered every week in trucks that came with account receivables, account, every week, much more detailed. In the paperless era, we have gotten less information, frankly, and I think we do need to go back to getting a little more, because, I have to just be honest, I received this budget, the line item I have today at 5, and I just can't, it's a number we're voting on, they're subject to change, but I have some concerns about the allocations here, and I don't feel as a board member approving a budget for $407,339,000 that I can vote on this in good conscience, because it is made up of dollars. There's one number and there's a tax cap and there's a number set, but I have to be comfortable that even though there's room for change, that
There will be
there's due
change.
diligence.
There
No,
will be
I
an
know,
adjustment.
but
There's
yeah,
always going to be that adjustment. What we're
Right.
asking now is essentially the tax, the overall budget, the not to exceed, the what our previous budget was, inclusive of the tax cap. And it's, in this, yes, it is in this paperless era, you do tend to get, there's less and a lot more is you look more online. But the information, it's, we have had the presentations. And again, that's to a certain extent, it's always been fluid up until that point, because there's things, you're always looking at adjustments, and you're always looking at, can we make sure that, everybody wants to preserve programs, at the end of the day, and because our job is, and to look for additional efficiencies and savings so that we can maintain and just maintain or expand an opportunity. So tonight's decision is the amount.
Can I just say something? It seems like before the tax cap also, there was more leeway in whether we were going to increase the budget by 10%, by 1%, by 0.5%. We're so locked into the amount at this point that you're not really voting on the budget until the actual budget vote. And hopefully by that point we'll have a better handle on what our staffing requirements are, and with the state runs coming in so late, it was really hard to pin all that down to that specific detail just for this. So the number really wasn't going to change very much one way or the other. And then the hard work is, how do we fit our program into this number that we've been given?
Which, as Joe said, will be.
We have it here.
The number did, the state budget this year came out very late. The state aid runs, we didn't get until, the budget wasn't approved until the 31st, and we didn't get our state aid runs until the 2nd. So it did come out, but we didn't even get preliminary state aid runs, which we've gotten in the past couple of weeks before, so that we could start plugging numbers in. So that, kind of chugged back, plus the Easter vacation, made it a little more different. But now, I look at that made a difference this year. But Carson called it revenue, and Joe called it expenses. It really is. It's the same number. It's the same number. But what we're approving tonight is that we're looking at the revenue side of the budget. We're saying that we feel comfortable this is the amount of money that we'll have to spend. How we spend it, what programs we choose to spend it on, we have to still kind of look that through. In the past, at this point in time, we've been pretty solid on that.
But the other thing, Enrique, and this may help as well, we're at the top of our tax cap through the formulas with pilots and everything. We can't go, if we exceed it, by that $12 or $17, we would then have to get a supermajority, correct? Of 60%. So so basically we've taken it as far as we can go right now. Now the hard work's going to have to be rolling up the sleeves and figuring out where we can cut. You know, me, I'm big on the overtime because I do not want to lose educational thing. I mean, there's efficiencies, as Mary Pat has alluded to, and we've talked about. There are things we can do in the district to make this district run smoother without having like an ATM machine here. So this way we can keep the math specialists and things like that in mind. So I think for Marion, to your point, I think we're at the point, really tonight is just, we can't go any further than this because then we'd have to ask for a 60% vote. So tonight, and as Carol said, tonight we just approve it, the number, and then we got, the hard work comes to figuring out where we're going to spend that money, where we're going to do it.
Well,
So
and
even though we didn't get it,
well, I was
we
gonna.
would have got, I mean, we're at that number, that number's not going to change.
But it should be
But I-
there already. It
I
should
know.
be- it should be-
I
That's a whole other
understand.
discussion.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't want it suggested that we're starting from, I mean, there's
No, I'm not
this.
saying we're starting.
No, but I mean,
It's
that
just-
that information's not, a lot of, you know, I would say a huge portion of it has been done. I just think it's a matter of sort of finalizing, and as Joe said, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be doing the presentation that we will, you know, stipulate every single piece of it.
But I just want to let the public know this is available. There is a document that will be on the website, and I think it should be on that website a little bit earlier because we're supposed to review it when we review it. And it will be up tomorrow. It's not up right now, but with line by line items. So you can have input. The public can still have input. into
And
these efforts.
hard copies also.
There are hard copies here, and the large audience.
And it will be available as in, not a
newspapers.
But if we could just also make sure we put the presentations up on our website under budget updates to make sure the public can easily access them.
thank you.
Go to vote.
So, any other questions? Can I get a motion to approve the school budget, proposed 2015-16 budget as presented for $74,407,339?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
It's just on the process this year. And some concerns about allocation.
Okay. All right, so our next,
The bus proposition.
Bus propositions.
oh, my mistake, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve for the bus proposition, a cost not to exceed $480,000?
Can I just ask one question on that?
Sure.
How much money is coming? I mean, because I know it's almost like the computers. Every year a certain amount comes off. Are we right in line with 448? How much is coming off?
Less.
From previous bonds.
It's less. Previous bonds usually have been going between 520 and 580. This particular year, it might be a little bit more because if you remember, in 2011, we decided not to have any new buses. So only 4 years of buses are coming off.
But it's right in line with what we.
It's right in line, and it's below the last 3 years.
The public's really not going to see it.
Last year was 550, 2 years ago was 520.
And how much will that cost each taxpayer in pennies, right?
480. Oh, it's basically
It's 1%.
no, but about 450,000 are coming off. So it's costing $30,000.
That's what I'm saying, so it's
Yeah.
really pennies.
It's costing about $30,000 for the whole.
So it's similar to what we do with the computers. We basically have a total.
Oh, it's absolutely, it's on, yes.
So just for the public to know that that's how.
Yeah, okay.
We're not just adding 480 every year, that money's coming off the
No.
back end.
No. It's,
It's the payment.
can I get a motion to approve the bus proposition as presented?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. That brings us to audience comments. Okay. Board comments, any new business? Okay.
I thought there was one.
I think it's the 13th, isn't it?
No, there says 11.
It does say 11. I hope.
I'll be honest with you, I feel
Yeah.
there may well be.
I think
will
there is
talk
one
to-
on the 11th.
Let me look into it, I apologize, I was out this weekend.
Also, too,
It will be on the website if there is. I'll check on that and getting it.
It was in the HID PTA update. They sent out that one and they said.
So the PTA's like, I should have them
Got an
tickle,
email.
like remind me here.
It was in our update too. It was in.
we always recognize what the students do. Marion just got a prestigious award, so just congratulations to Marion. I don't know the extent, I saw the article just briefly.
Advocacy.
Yep, so.
She won an advocacy award.
Attitude of the year
Mhm.
for
Thank you. It's Westchester Jewish Community Services. Thank you very much.
for special education and
But people on the board go out beyond above and beyond what they do on the meetings here. Mary Pat will attest to that.
So our next meeting will be 2 weeks from yesterday. It will be Tuesday, April 21st. It will be here at the Hendrick Hudson Library. That will be posted just so people don't miss it. And I will check into the meet and greet, and please check it'll be on the website. I believe it is. I'll take their word for it as well as the PTA's. So that will be at the Dunkin' Donuts from 8:30 till 10 o'clock this Saturday. Other than that, thank you very much. And we will be adjourning to exec for a second exec this evening. But have a good evening. Can I get a motion to move to exec?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.